Hi, welcome to our latest podcast. I'm Francesca and I head up the payroll department at Seavor Chartered. Today I have Graeme, our director and client manager, and Lisa, who heads up the management account team. Today we're going to discuss what accountants do. I think a lot of people don't have a full understanding of what we do for our clients, and a recent survey recently showed that 8 out of 10 would class accountants as experts. However, when asked further, 50% of people did not know what we did. So today I think it's a good opportunity to explain what we do for you and your business throughout each stage. I think first off we'll go with the start-up stage of a business. Lisa, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, so we help businesses at all stages, but we do help new businesses get set up correctly. At that point, it's probably more about compliance, making sure that you're compliant with rules and laws. We also help them make sure they are set up correctly for record keeping, because it's so important that from day one, you are keeping your records to pass on to your accountant or to process yourself.
Yeah, and I suppose that can come lots of other conversations about that, whether it's software, manual, how's best to keep the records, making tax digital coming into it. And I suppose a big part of that could be, are they registered already to trade or not? And what structure's right for them? Should there be a sole trader, limited company, LLP, partnership? What sort of structure's right? And we can help once we've decided what's the right structure for tax business purposes. We can help them get registered, whether it's with HMRC, Companies House. So almost right at the start, if someone's thinking about setting up in business, but they don't know or not quite sure what to do, then having a meeting with an accountant, that accountant can hopefully point them in the right direction and also get them help set up so that right from the start, they've got the best chance of success in their business.
Yeah, and obviously certainly if they've maybe made a start, but then are at a bit of a stuck of where to go next within that startup, it follows on to a growth stage of business. So they've obviously done the setup, got everything in place, but then what happens next?
Yeah, so I suppose once they're into the growth stage of the business, it could be that they've got going, they're making sales, they're doing well. We act for lots of clients in that space, and it could be that they want help with, software advice. What should they be doing now? They've got to a point, their record keeping feels a bit of a burden for them or whatever. So we could give them advice on moving to maybe some cloud accounting software such as Xero, look to make that as efficient, that process for them as we can, introducing things like Dext, and just generally help them put in those financial processes. So one, it's efficient for them, but also for tax point of view and Companies House point of view, that they'll be compliant, keeping things the right way. And that can help them as well determine how well their business is doing through that growth stage. Also, we'll make sure that we're there to support them with any questions that have, whether in terms of tax or accounting, ultimately minimising the tax bills where we can, any random ad hoc questions they have, whether it's purchasing company vehicles or whether it's about VAT, payroll, that sort of thing. We could go on to things about that. I suppose when it comes to payroll, that might be something that you can talk about as well as a service that we offer for growing businesses.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, within the payroll team, there is certainly a lot of things to consider, to look at. Obviously, being compliant with HMRC, pensions regulator. There's things such as national minimum wage changes that are happening every year. There's other things such as age-related national wage changes, apprentice changes that you have to look at and consider. There's auto-enrolment to look at, and that's everything that we look at for you on your behalf and make sure that we are looking after you.
And I suppose when the business is growing, you're short of time, you're busy meeting customers, dealing with suppliers, getting the best deals that you can. And then you're dealing with all maybe team members that are coming on board, training them up, getting all your systems in place. And I know a lot of growing businesses, they're still really conscious of costs and things, and they've got to make sure they spend money in the right places. And, if they were looking to do payroll in-house, yes, we would help them do that. But I think it's just some of these things now, they're just so complicated.
Yeah, definitely.
How much risk and time you're taking on there just trying to save some money, where actually it could be right that your accountant looks to do that sort of side of things with it, where there's so much to consider.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of people think, especially with payroll, I give you your hours and that's it. But that isn't it. There's a lot of things that we look at every week, month, fortnight, depending on the pay period, that as the client, they maybe don't have to think about that. And we have that knowledge to then look at them different aspects of payroll.
Yeah. And I suppose, again, it's that you're a growing business. Do you spend your time doing your VAT return or do you spend your time focused on your business and its growth? And how many times have we looked into things for growing businesses, whether it's VAT, CIS, and then all of a sudden there's things that haven't been claimed or, money that they haven't got back. And it can be thousands, all because they're not focused on that and they're not trained in it. Ultimately, people who's starting business, they're maybe experts at what their business is, you know, whether it's selling products, electrician, joiner, whatever it could be, but they're not going to be experts in accounting and tax, irrespective of how much training you look to give them, because it is a specialism in itself, and there's specialism in every aspect of it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, not easy.
And obviously I know you mentioned that we can provide training, and we do provide training, but there's so much can be covered in one training session, and you're then having to take time from their business that they're trying to grow, which obviously can affect it as well.
Yeah. And I suppose that's the good sort of advice we would give, Lisa, isn't it? Almost like for them to focus on what's right for them in their business as well. So that's where accountants, you know, the traditional sense of an accountant is we just get a load of paperwork and put some accounts together out of that. But actually there's a lot of advice that we get to give to clients because of what we learn from what all our other clients say or other business people that we work with, and almost passing those snippets on can tell them, well, actually, it's right that you spend the time on that because that'll help you grow your business. But do you know what? This year, I know there's a cost to getting somebody else to do it, whether it's us or somebody else, but we think that's a good value for money that you do that because it frees up your time to focus on something else.
Yeah, it's definitely like we're using our experience of what we've seen and using our expertise as well as our clients using their expertise and where it all fits in best for them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Definitely. So obviously following a growth stage, the business has grown, they've set up, they've grown, they've got processes in place, so now they're an established business. And what would you say for an established business?
Yeah, so certainly. So once a business, well, it doesn't have to be a certain size, but generally once a business gets to a certain size, they start to need a little bit more support from an external person, or they need somebody internal. Now, what we do, we can provide an external service, but we are your finance function. So we are like you've got somebody internal doing it for you, but, you know, we are separate. So to do that, we are a lot more involved. We provide weekly bookkeeping, and then following on from that weekly bookkeeping, we can provide some management reports.
Yeah, give management information to help them make decisions, really.
Yes,
so now they're established and they're running, and they're now trying to, someone said to us, squeeze the pips or make more profit out of the business. They need to have that information to hand to what's the right decisions to be making. And I think you can only do that if you've got information which is accurate enough for you to be making those decisions.
Accurate and timely as well.
That's it. Because I know with us, if we're preparing management accounts for a client, we want to try and get them as close to the month end that we can as possible. And that's, again, having somebody putting the right systems in place, it being updated regularly, consistently, correctly. Yeah. And all that side of things to give good, solid management information. And management information, the traditional accountant maybe did some year-end set of accounts that you would go and you'd have a profit and loss and a balance sheet. And, the number of times I've met with clients that said, well, my old accountant, I didn't even understand it. He just put this in front of us and I didn't understand it. And I do try to actually spend the time with clients to help them get an understanding of that. And, I can't say not everybody's interested in that, fair enough, but I think you can run a more profitable business if you understand those figures. Yeah. And from that profit and loss information, you can pull out margins as your wages costs improved or increased, like looking at things like your wages as a percentage of your sales, and also look at other areas to focus on where there could be savings or potential for growth. And we can give advice on that sort of side of things.
And it was, you mentioned margins there. So it's really important that if your suppliers have had an increase, but you haven't increased your selling costs, then margins can slowly start to squeeze a little bit. Yeah. And whereas if you've got that information on a regular basis in a timely manner, you can make those changes and it'll have an effect on your profits.
Like it's almost having a real-time update from the management account.
Yeah, and the cloud software that we recommend, it does give almost instant access, but realistically, you need it up to date and having all costs and wage costs and everything like that in there. So a good point is a month end to look back and see what we've done. And that's the difference probably now between a modern accountant and your traditional accountant. You went and met your traditional accountant at the year end, you discussed through some figures with them, and if unfortunately some bad decisions have been made throughout the year, you find out about them. And there's not really much you can change about it.
Yeah, it's too late at that point isn't it?
It's too late. Whereas in the modern accountant is probably going to help you get systems and processes in place with cloud accounting where you can be logging online to see how you're doing throughout the year. So that if something's going wrong, you're getting squeezed on those margins, you can react to it a lot quicker. And then if your business is, it's grown, it's established, and you felt you need even more support, that can be put together with specific management reporting to add to that, or quarterly updates or things like that, so that you're getting even more support and analysis from your accountant to kind of help you make the right decisions for you and your business.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's going back a little bit there, but I know you mentioned about having up-to-date cloud software, and that also goes hand in hand with, in that setup stage, that you are being efficient with your records, and it all comes down from starting at the roots and making sure they're strong, so that when you do become that established business, that your cloud accountant is up to date and allowing you to make them decisions day to day. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, it's another cost to add on to a brand new business to invest in, accounting software. And it's probably, do you invest in marketing, or do you invest in your website, or do you invest in your accounting? And a lot of businesses, well, that's not my priority. And I get it. But if you set it up from day one, you are really setting the stage for how the rest of your business is going to go, because you're going to be organised, you're going to be able to see what you're doing, and then hopefully with those financials, maximise your profit.
Yeah, I mean, would you also agree that doing these management accounts and finance function can help with some things such as forecasts and budget planning? That's how that kind of comes into play a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something an accountant can help with. So it's one thing, I suppose, to look back, see what you've done and learn from what you've done well, what you've not done so well. But I suppose looking at a budget and a forecast, that where a budget's almost like, well, if we set a budget for next year, you're basically saying, well, if we hit those figures each month in a budget, I know what we're going to achieve by the end of the year. If I exceed them, we're going to do better. If I don't achieve them, well, what does that look like? So a budget can be a good thing to see, well, based on everything I know about my business right now, what are we aiming for? And we can budget costs in certain areas, what we spend on our marketing. Should we be looking to recruit in this next 12 months or not? And then what a forecast could be is, once you've got into the year, right, we set our budget, but now things have changed. For example, the cost from our main suppliers increased by 5%. How does that affect what it's going to look like now? So we need to forecast ahead to see what's happening. But also, just even really key things could be just managing cash flows, forecasting, well, my VAT's payable then. Am I going to have enough cash flow then? I don't want to be investing that and then all of a sudden find I haven't prepared for a VAT or a tax bill or another investment or vehicle changes or whatever that could be. So that's certainly something we can help with, and there is software that can help with it as well.
Yeah, obviously I know you mentioned about purchasing and future purchasing there, especially with an established business. That's probably a time where someone's maybe considering buying vehicles through a business, and obviously there's lots to consider there, isn't there?
Yeah. I think Lisa, you did a podcast not too long ago on that, didn't you? About the tax relief on vehicles, and there's so much to think about just in isolation. But I suppose as your business is more established, I suppose tax-wise, it can become more complex, and you can have more needs and things. And it could be, well, now I'm starting to generate my wealth. What should I be doing to keep as much as I can? And that can lead on to things where your accountant can help you. So how you're making sure your business is still structured tax efficiently. Is your remuneration policy from your company or your business, is that set up tax efficiently? Should we be considering other things like holding companies or other structures, complex stuff like that? And even things like, let's say you were looking to buy a property, whether it's a rental, Airbnb, whatever it could be. Tax advice is, well, how should we be buying that? Should I be buying it personally? Should I be buying it in my current trading company? Should I have another company? What do the taxes look like on that? What's the stamp duty look like on that? If my intentions are to sell it next year, does that impact how I should buy it? Or if actually I'm looking to keep it for the next 10 years, does that change how I should buy it? And what's the growth in the value of the property over that period? How does that affect taxes? And all the other things that you're thinking about doing can mean that it can get quite complex, the sort of tax advice for established businesses. And, it's part of business. Taxes like any other cost, and it should be managed. So, you wouldn't want to overpay on buying goods. Why would you want to overpay on tax? It's another cost. And therefore, you should take advice to try and minimise where you can so you're tax efficient.
Yeah, and that was obviously what we're here for, making sure that businesses are running smoothly, efficiently, and as they should be. Yeah.
And look, there's lots of tax reliefs out there, and the reliefs that the government's introduced to allow businesses to grow and develop, and they want businesses to take advantage of them. But if businesses aren't aware of them, then they're going to forego them reliefs, aren't they? So it's having a knowledgeable accountant to work with that'll make sure that you're taking advantage of them.
Yeah. I mean, I know we've discussed there quite a lot about stages of a business. I just wondered if there's anything to add on about tax affairs of an individual, when even if it's like a one-off such as capital gains tax. Is there anything further?
Yeah, if you are thinking that you are going to need advice on that, definitely speaking to an accountant, a good accountant. Sometimes you're best getting advice before you do the transaction as well. So it could be that you think that you're going to do something. So rather than doing it and then getting the advice or finding out, you fell into a trap of a huge tax bill, there might be ways, like you mentioned, about different things that the government allow. If you speak to someone beforehand, you could sometimes minimise those taxes.
Yeah, and I suppose when it comes to individuals generally, the services that an accountant or a good tax advisor like us can provide is, it could be help with self-assessment tax return. If they've got income from investments or rental properties or other sort of form, we can help them do those. Other than that, it's probably going to be one-off things that happen in people's lives, whether it's they've got capital gains tax to pay because they've sold a chargeable asset, property, land, that sort of thing. Or as well, another stage in life, on death, if somebody needs help with inheritance tax planning or dealing with it after the event as well, just to try and help them with those sort of things, because it's not things people are going to do very often. And then it's right that they get the right advice to deal with it. I actually had a telephone call early this morning. It's business and tax related. And it was with a farmer early this morning. He was considering selling a little bit of his land. And, he phoned his accountant just because he wants to get second opinions and understand how the tax works with and everything like that. And genuinely, tax on its own could impact whether that's the right decision for that farmer to sell that land or not. Yeah. Just the tax aspect of it. So, it's always important, I think, to get advice beforehand, after the event, and thinking, oh, no, I wish I'd spoke to someone before, it's cost me money I didn't realise as it was. So...
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know we've covered a lot of things there. We've certainly covered each stage of a business and an individual and what we do for them and why we do what we do. Thank you both for coming in today. It was really insightful on what you've been able to help us with. Obviously, if anyone would like any further information or would like a discussion with on about our team, please feel free to contact us.